Jared Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey everyone, happy Sunday afternoon to you. Just a little after 12:30. It is time for your winter weather update. We're going to talk about the ice storm that is heading our way, when it's going to start, who all it's going to impact, how much of an impact, how much ice you're going to get, when you can travel, all that and more. So you've come to the right place. We're going to talk about the science behind it, give you the forecast that we've been talking about since last Sunday. So a lot of my followers that have been here all week have known about this since last Sunday. Those that are new here, welcome. That means you've had some people that follow this page tell you, hey, check out this guy. He knows what's going on. So yeah, you are at the right place. This is AT's Weather. We do talk about the factual forecast. I'm bringing a lot of science too with it. You can understand what's happening with the weather, and you will get the most accurate forecast here than you will anywhere else. Let's talk about first things first, and I have to do this. Popular demand. All right, Jody, bring them in. Bring in the troops. So I've had the last few lives I've had. There's been a withdrawal for Larry and Penelope. So before you get started with weather, for you early birds, you get rewarded. The latecomers, they miss out. So we'll start with Larry. So this is little buddy Larry. This is the original. Now Larry has a little shirt on. AT's Weather, isn't that cute? So he's adorable. Usually calm, cool, and collected. But then this little turd. This is Penelope. Hi, baby. So Penelope loves to do kisses, and when I go live, she gets antsy. She wants attention, so she has to come in here and give me some love. And the two of these will not behave when they're like this. If one at a time, no problem. But the two, there's not enough air to go around. So, all right, there goes one squirmy. All right, you good? Okay. Now she goes the other. Okay, there we go. Back to Mama's lap. That's another thing. If Mama's not here, all of a sudden it's daddy time. See how it is. Whatever, man. Nature. So anyway, so there you go. There's little Penelope and Larry, the two little teacup Yorkies. Both about 3+ pounds, somewhere in that vicinity. And they're little terrors. She's a boss lady. I feel sorry for him because she will literally just be mean to him. Just literally be mean. Bite on him. Corral him. Don't let him do things he likes to do. I'm just like, boy. I don't know, man. It's genetic. This whole male and female dogma. It exists. All species. Okay, so out there currently, let's get on with the weather. We've had the clouds roll in this morning. Both low cloud, mid cloud, high cloud. So as promised, we're going to see a lot of sun today. Therefore, it's going to be very difficult to get above freezing. I haven't quite made it. I'm close. I'm at 31.8 degrees in my Tempest thermometer. So we may eventually top out. I didn't check the decimal point, but I may have briefly hit 32.0 or 32.3 or something like that. Point is, we're kind of holding into the lower 30s out there because of that increase in cloud cover. And we've got a wind. Mine right now says from the southeast at 4. It's an instantaneous measurement. But they've been up around 15, 20, gusts even higher than that, to around 30. And that'll be the case here for this afternoon. Let's take a look at the radar situation and the statewide view of temperatures. And you can see we've got 30s and 20s across all of Oklahoma. Now, as far as precipitation goes, yes, do you see this right here? That is light precipitation falling from the sky. Some of it is not reaching the ground, and some of it is. Now, interesting enough, because there's still some dry air at various levels of atmosphere, it's making the precip type a little wishy-washy. In other words, the reports are coming in, a little bit of sleet, a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain. So it's got like a winter mix type until we continue to moisten up the atmosphere, because western Oklahoma is a little drier than central and eastern Oklahoma. So once this disturbance starts to work its way into this part of the state, that'll all be freezing drizzle, freezing rain, and she would look quite a bit heavier and actually make it to the ground and start to cause some problems. But in the meantime, out here in western Oklahoma, it's not out of the question. Southwest to start getting some accumulation on the bridges and overpasses, which would be the first to freeze, obviously, then the main roadways. But the main roadways will freeze as well. If we expand this out, you can see the cloud cover infiltrates all of the southern plains from Kansas all down to Texas. And there's more rounds of precipitation out here to our west, moving in from the southwest to the northeast. So this is just the first wave. And we're going to have multiple waves that move through, but we're going to have two basically big main waves and just like a lot of in-between stuff. So this is going to be a prolonged event here starting this afternoon, currently in southwest Oklahoma, moving into central Oklahoma in the next couple of hours. So if you have anything to do, you better do it here in the next couple of hours. So if you want your short-term forecasts, get out the door, get it done, be home by 3, 4 o'clock at the latest here in central Oklahoma, because this stuff's already coming in from the south and west. And as soon as it starts to hit the roadways and stuff, it should start to become problematic pretty quickly. So you don't be caught in that stuff. Even though it'll be fairly light, it won't take much, and that's just the way it goes in these situations. Now, we've had some talk over, is this an ice storm? I have seen some skebuddle on the internet. This is not an ice storm. So I went back to look at the definition of an ice storm. I went to Fox Weather, of all places. But by definition, an ice storm is when there's damaging ice accretion, I should say, during a freezing rain situation. We have a freezing rain situation. All right, so it accumulates, therefore it's an ice storm. So now there is something different called an ice storm warning. Now that comes out from National Weather Service within a less than 24-hour window, typically of the start of an event, for amounts greater than 1/4 of an inch. Will there be an ice storm warning in Oklahoma? There certainly could be. I'm sure those guys right now are mulling it over. Northwestern Kansas or Arkansas has already issued one. Ice impacts, if there are 1/4 of an inch or less, which is what a lot of Oklahoma will see, minor power outages, lighting, icing on trees, windshields and roads covered, as we talked about. And actually, it's funny as this is misleading because it doesn't even say roads becoming slick. Trust me, they'll be slick with 1/4 inch of ice. But the other category here, this the disruptive category, which is 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch with numerous power outages, some tree damage. So this is kind of where we're going to be in some areas of the state, in parts of Kansas and parts of Missouri. We're going to get approaching the 1/2 inch category in some cases, very isolated regions. So there might be a little bit additional power outages in those little hot spots. And I'll show you that. I don't expect trees to come down, but you never know. We are going to have some winds gusting up around 25 to 30 miles per hour during this event. So obviously it's going to be a little on the windy side, the cold side, and the icy side. So always drive slowly, drive carefully. If you do, and you must, get out there on the roadways once they become ice covered. Remember, you do not have any traction, four-wheel drive or not. Now, take a look at soil temperatures out there. They're still holding into the lower 30s, and this is one of the elements required to have that kind of a flash freezing effect on roadways. And you see that out here into northwestern Oklahoma as well. A little bit of warmthness here in south central. That'll be quickly cooling down as the precipitation starts. As far as the watches and warnings are concerned, we have the purple shading, which is a winter weather advisory, which means precipitation a mixed type. Also, we have this little blue area for a winter storm warning. And there's the expansion already of an ice storm warning, which does include Oklahoma. So this just got updated here in the last hour. It includes a large area here of Oklahoma. So yes, we do have an ice storm warning officially issued by the National Weather Service for Oklahoma. All right, so let's take a look at the satellite viewpoint as we talked about. All these mid and high level clouds are coming in from the west and southwest. Low level moisture here in white has already come in. It actually came in a little bit early from the Gulf of Mexico. It streamed in last night. So it beat the model prediction by just a few hours. Not that big of a deal. Didn't really change anything in the forecast. We didn't warm up as a result either way. All right, so we have, see all the colors on the map? This is all lift in the atmosphere. See how this kind of just keeps moving on through Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, Missouri. Heavy stuff there by Monday morning across eastern Texas and western Arkansas, Missouri. So there you go. And we've got some more wraparound stuff that comes in after that for Tuesday afternoon. So that's another wave of heavy rainfall, not ice, just rainfall. And that moves through it to Oklahoma here by Tuesday evening. So some heavy rainfall and showers moving through at that time. So we'll be stuck kind of in a wet pattern, looks like, a little bit off and on for this coming week. Okay, so temperatures, let's take a look at them as we head into the afternoon hours. So we talked about some places are trying to warm above freezing. The model still thinks that's going to happen. But what's funny is we look at temperatures here in the forecast. Let's see. So we'll go to the 1 o'clock frame. You see how they're into the mid 30s, 34, Ponca City and Enid. If you look here, on the actual air temperatures, not too bad, right? So models did pretty good. There's 34, 36 degrees. So there's a little pocket here where temperatures did get above freezing because they had a little bit more sun that snuck in before those low clouds arrived. That allowed them to warm up a little bit. So far, this model, which I'm picking to use for this forecast, the high resolution NAM model, is on track. I thought it looked great yesterday. I still think it looks great today. So this afternoon, it's still going to kind of hold us mostly into the 30s and 20s across the state today. As we head into tonight, of course, that cold air kind of deepens down south into North Texas. So we head into the Monday midnight hour. So again, tonight it's a midnight. There you can still see the freezing line is all the way down to Texas and to the Dallas area. And as we head into the early morning hours, about 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning, that is when the freezing line retreats down in Dallas-Fort Worth. So ice until then for you folks elsewhere over the body of Oklahoma. Exception of the rule is this new trend of the last couple of runs that has brought in really strong warm air advection to kind of help erode the below freezing temperatures down here in southeast Oklahoma. So it looks like they will be spared from significant icing because of that little effect. But anyway, by Monday, 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, look how the warm air kind of starts to erode the cold air. We start to replace these numbers, 31, 32, 33. So we're starting to get into that spot where it becomes less of a threat and more of just a chilly rain. And so by lunchtime, most of the state is either at or above freezing. So Tulsa, you're still right on the border. So that's why the forecast has always been wait till after lunch, then head out if you need to head out and do some stuff on Monday. So there's the afternoon. We're back into the mid-30s. Precipitation, for the most part, has kind of moved on off by that point. So it does start to dry out, but we also start to warm up a hair about the same time. Now, dew points is everything when it comes to ice. All right. So as long as your dew point temperature, think of that as the floor. The floor exists in everything. It exists in trading. It exists in crypto. When you want to forecast where a stock or anything's going to fall, look at the historical trend and you look for the floor. So there's always a floor. Well, this is the floor for temperatures. They can't go past the floor. This is a hard line in the sand. It's physics. You can't get past it no matter how hard you try. So Sunday, we have dew point values into the 20s, central west, teens and single digits to the east, which means any precipitation that falls in this atmosphere anywhere across Oklahoma has to be frozen. There's no choice because the temperature will fall close to the dew point due to evaporational cooling and also wet bulbing. All right, let's head to Sunday at tonight to midnight. You can still see all the way down to North Texas. They're in the upper 20s there. Let's go to 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We are still into the 20s statewide, down to right around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're right about 30, 29 Tarrant County, 30 Dallas County, Rockwall 31. So they're right on the cusp of more freezing rain through 4 o'clock in the morning. And then by 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, now we start to warm things up, I should say moisten things up. Remember, this is a dew point value. But numbers here now into the lower 30s, so above freezing in southeast Oklahoma, northeast Texas, Plano, right around Sherman, into Dallas-Fort Worth, etc. So through 6 a.m., ice there in North Texas and Dallas and westward from there, all the way up through Oklahoma. And then as we talked about, we're going to moisten up the atmosphere, which means these dew points will rise. As we head to 11 o'clock, there's noon. So now you have a dew point value up around 32, 32, 31, 31. So technically, even through noon, you could still have these little patchy areas of light freezing drizzle at this time. But the good news is it has been an increasing trend throughout the day. About 1 o'clock, there you go, we're 33 here in Oklahoma City. Low mid-30s out here in eastern Oklahoma. So that means, again, your ice threat comes to an end as we head after lunchtime. Winds, as we talked about, if you've been out there today, it's windy. Like there's our wind gusts up around 30 plus miles per hour out of the south. And that'll continue for this afternoon. And then for tonight, still windy. And that is a problem when it comes to power outages if you have enough ice accumulation. As we head to Monday afternoon, the winds do die down here across central Oklahoma, but they're still going out across Arkansas, Missouri, so that'll kind of help to aid additional power concerns out in that region. And let me show you. And matter of fact, I got a couple of graphics here once I finish this forecast part. Kind of helpful tips, what you can do when it comes to freezing rain. And speaking of which, if you've missed out before, you don't know what freezing rain is, what I'm talking about when we're talking about an ice storm. So freezing rain is liquid precipitation that freezes on contact with cold surfaces as it enters a shallow layer of temperatures that are at or below freezing at the surface. This creates a dangerous coating of ice on roads, walkways, trees, and power lines. So again, it starts off as snow in the cloud layer, falls in this warm layer, which is around 5,000 feet or so off the ground. Then that falls into a very thin cold layer. It's only about 1,000 feet thick. And then that freezes back on contact onto the trees, bridges, power lines, homes, grass, all that kind of stuff. So that is what we call a freezing rain event, also known as an ice storm. All right, so here's the big picture, just for this first, and we'll zoom in Oklahoma. So there you can see all the precipitation breaking out here in southwest Oklahoma, western Texas. Now the models are going to have a tough time making sure all this is pink versus just green. In other words, it's got a mixed precipitation type because it doesn't quite know what to do, but it gets there. As we head into the evening hours, again, all that moves on off to the north and east and the northern and northeastern Oklahoma. There's that secondary batch already come into southern Oklahoma during the evening hours, from Oklahoma City south into Dallas, and then back out toward the hill country in west central Texas and all of northwestern Texas there to Wichita Falls, Abilene, Mineral Wells. So there's Sunday evening, southwest Oklahoma. Here's that big wave coming on into Oklahoma City Metro by daybreak Monday. So when you're out and about, or at least trying to, you're going to be driving on nothing but ice all the way down to Dallas-Fort Worth. The model kind of splits the Metroplex in half. It looks like the southern and southeastern sides trying to warm things up, while the northwest side still stay on the icy side for the morning commute down there. Otherwise, you can see that ice here from Missouri and Arkansas through Monday morning, quite heavy at times. And then there's that warmer air sneaking in here, turning a lot of this back over to cold rain. On the fringe of that, though, you still have enough cold air left over for a little touch of ice accumulation through Tulsa and points south and west, and that'll help to add to the ice totals. We'll look at that here in just a second. But meanwhile, by the afternoon hours on Monday, all the significant precipitation has moved on off. And according to this particular model, pretty much all the frozen variety has moved off as well, exception maybe there into far eastern, southeastern Missouri. And that's the way this storm system wraps up. Here's a close-up view of Oklahoma. So again, if you're worried about time, working about placement, all that kind of stuff, you have some plans, well, here we go. So let's go to, refresh this. All right, so we'll go to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's an hour from now. Kind of matches up nice what we just saw on radar not long ago. You can see how it gets closer here to about Chickasha area. As we head into the 3 o'clock hour, look at this. We're already starting to get these little light sprinkles, even up here in Tulsa, little light echoes of precipitation, a little heavier out here northwest and southwest Oklahoma. So remember, any moisture that falls from the sky, we're going to be turning those streets over to patchy areas of ice initially, and then widespread ice after that. So here's 4 o'clock, and there's 5 o'clock, a big heavy wave that moves through. Again, if you're on the road, you're in trouble at this point. 6 o'clock, that moves up between us and Tulsa, down south in Ardmore to North Texas. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, still going through northeast Oklahoma and southern parts of the state. There's that secondary wave at 9, 10. Again, that moves through Oklahoma City as well, and the rest of North Texas and now eastern Oklahoma, even northern Oklahoma from Enid up to southern Kansas getting on the actions. That's been a little bit of a change. This area here of Kansas has really not been in the ice accumulation forecast from before, but the newer trend kind of shoved everything west over the last 24 hours just a little bit for coverage. So it does include you guys up toward Wichita Falls. Again, there's more ice through 3 o'clock in the morning on Monday. Very heavy freezing rain out here in eastern Oklahoma. Here's more at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on Monday, 11 o'clock on Monday. There's noontime, and then here we go, 1 o'clock, and there's Tulsa hanging on, but changing quickly over to rainfall after that. And then it's all pretty much said and done when it comes to ice. How much? Well, if we look at the high-resolution models that do a mean forecast percentage, they are looking, see what this little darker green area is? That is anywhere between a quarter to half inch of ice. So remember the graphic how we started the broadcast with? This is your most favored area for power outages in this region from Tulsa east to south, Muskogee, almost down to McAllister, and then back out southwest toward Ada, Ardmore, Duncan, Paoli, Pauls Valley, maybe even close to Norman. That's that quarter to half inch category. Where you see this secondary green line, this is 1/10 of an inch to a quarter. So it does include as much as a quarter of an inch of ice in the Oklahoma City metro area and, of course, in Tulsa. The other hard-hit areas up around Missouri and also southern Missouri and also into the Ozarks there of Arkansas and down into the little valley area. And that's the first 24 hours. If you go to the next 24-hour accumulation, you still have some residual out here in this part and this part. So they'll get a double whammy here on this map. It splits into 2 instead of 1. But bottom line is up to half inch or more in some of these areas, especially southern Missouri and Arkansas. I'm going to give you this close-up view of what that looks like here in just a second. So if I were just to show you, all the models are on board with ice. They all vary in distribution and they vary in amounts, but they're all significant. So that's the European, for example. There's some spots there of half an inch. South central Oklahoma, Fort Smith area about half an inch. There east. Also up here in Missouri, about a half an inch or more. The global model of the global version of the Canadian also likes the same hot spot down here southeast of the metro in east central Oklahoma, about a half an inch. Same thing over here in Fort Smith, same thing over here in southern Missouri. So almost identical to the European. The American model, a little bit less amounts, similar to some hot spots, but not quite as aggressive. But hey, that's to be expected. It's an inferior model when it comes to this. The HER has brought in way too much warm air advection. So either this is going to score the win of the century because it is such an outlier, or it's out to lunch and it's bringing in too much warm air too fast. And by doing so, reduces amounts over many areas of the state, which is hot pockets of ice. So the distribution doesn't look right to me, so I threw it out. The NAM model is usually the go-to when it comes to situation. It's got that more expanded look of coverage, which I like. I'm not mad at this at all. Heavier amounts out here on the west side of Dallas-Fort Worth, up here in the south central Oklahoma, same spots around the Arkansas-Oklahoma border, and up here around Missouri. So I'm okay with that, but I prefer its high resolution, brother, and that's going to still kind of keep the same geographical area and the same hot spots here, all in here, and even a little bit here. It misses here a little bit, but I can fill that in, and I like a little higher amounts toward Tulsa as well. That'd be my little change. There's a model blend, which is conservative, super conservative, very light, and even then it's still going significant. Another version of the Canadian, the hotspot showing up, and another high resolution model that brings in too much warm air advection, but still the hotspot showing up. So that's the take home, is all those little hotspots are going to get the heaviest amounts of ice accumulation, and therefore the biggest probable areas for some power outages. All right, so like we talked about, this is the high resolution NAM, which has up to about a quarter of an inch of rain, or freezing rain, I should say, here in Oklahoma City. You see a little spot right here that shows up better, even out here toward Lawton, out here down south central Oklahoma, these little spots here. It tries to pick the heavier amounts, but you can see this widespread, a tenth to a quarter of an inch. That's done deal. Remember, the ice storm warning criteria is anything above a quarter of an inch. So technically in the model data, it's been calling for ice storm warning criteria for days now. So if you keep ignoring it and you end up getting more than a quarter of an inch, well, that should have been an ice storm warning. But I'll let the Weather Service deal with that. That's where they specialize in. We're going to look at the Fort Smith area from that point eastward. Again, these little pockets up here. Some models are going nuts, 3/4 of an inch of ice accumulation. So obviously pretty significant. Same up here in the northern parts of the state, third to maybe a half inch in that area. And same thing for Texas. There's going to be these little hot spots that come up around a quarter of an inch or more. The models are having a really tough time down here in North Texas. But at a minimum, I can see 1500s in Dallas. The max, I can see about a quarter of an inch. I'm going to show you a cool vertical view of that as well. As to, I think they can eat a little bit more. Here's a look at Missouri. A couple of hot spots here. Branson, just southeast of Springfield, up around a quarter to half inch of ice in this little spot. Goes up the highway up to St. Louis, where they're also going to see about another quarter to 3/10 of an inch of ice accumulation. So therefore, this little orange area indicates moderate impacts for infrastructure, for power, and also for travel. In other words, this will be the worst areas of accumulating ice. But that does not mean you will not have slick spots everywhere else where you even see the gray on the map, because icy roads are icy roads. The Weather Service put out some graphics earlier last night and this morning. We'll see if they've updated any of theirs. So let's see. This is what they call for the Sunday afternoon freezing event coming on in. And if you remember last night, they had that down here into this part of the state, and I said it won't be, it'll be here, and it'll be in the early part of the afternoon, based off the data we looked at 10 o'clock. Of course, they like the hot spot here of freezing rain in the evening hours through the southern parts of Oklahoma. And then obviously on Monday morning, things start to shift more to the east and southeast during the day. And then their impacts here, they've also raised ice accumulations. We're now in the 10th to a quarter of an inch in the Oklahoma City metro area, pretty much along I-35, back out here to down 44 as well toward Lawton. And then they've been playing in this little area off and on. These numbers go up and down as the red regions grow and shrink of a quarter to half inch of ice. And that's just model chasing, where you're trying to find the pinpoint areas of where you're more confident of a half inch of ice. So we do know it's in this general area, but these red blobs keep moving around. So the point is, that's one of the harder hit regions between Ada, Ardmore, and Durant for this event here in our part of Oklahoma, and then out toward Fort Smith in the secondary part as well. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to Tulsa's area. So that's where they have the impact here for the winter storm watch. And this is actually now upgraded to a winter storm warning and an ice storm warning out here. think that was been the change we looked at a minute ago. Otherwise, a winter weather advisory on up to the north. These are all just different categories just to try to convey that there's going to be winter precipitation. Don't put so much stock into them other than to know that, yes, you've got ice coming your way and the roads will go downhill starting this afternoon from western Oklahoma traveling to eastern Oklahoma as we go from afternoon to evening. You look at temperatures over the next few days. Once we get past this little hump, things are looking much better after that, and then things will be improving. Before we get to the specifics down into Dallas and other cities, I'll give you what the models are showing for Tulsa and Oklahoma City for measurements and how we get to that. But speaking of measurements for the ice, how do you measure ice, right? So what you do is you look for trees or a shrub or branch and use a tape measure, and you're going to measure from the ice from the top to the bottom. So you're not going to measure try like the half part. You're going to measure the whole thing. All right, so it's an example of what that branch would look like. So the whole thing you're going to measure. So you'll get like 1/4 inch on the top, 3/4 inch on the bottom, something like that. And you're going to add them up. And you're going to divide by 2. And that gives your total ice accumulation. So in this particular panel example, 3/4 plus 1/4 equals 1, divided by 2 equals 1/2. If you're not good at math, let Google do it for you. Ask ChatGPT. let your cell phone do it. But you'll get there. And when you do, you can send it to the National Weather Service via email or on their Twitter page at NWS Norman, and they will take all these measurements, add them up, and make a nice map, which then I can share to you later to find out how much ice we got out there across the state. And now when that does happen, and it will, you will have an issue with bridges first. Why? Because there's no underground heat, so the entire structure could be surrounded by cold air. The freezing isn't uniform. Shaded parts can be icy while sunny parts aren't. Slow down before the bridge, as in changing speed on ice is dangerous. You never want to accelerate or decelerate with your brakes or gas over an ice patch. You just want to kind of glide or coast over it. And of course, black ice sometimes you can't even see, especially at nighttime. It can form on any road, also along curbs and drainage areas. So if you have to go get the mail, you're stepping off your front porch, be advised, it'll look kind of wet, but it isn't wet. It's frozen. More prevalent at night, obviously, but still around in the morning. And then don't drive during freezing temperatures after rain or snow melt. So we do get, the ice around that kind of melts for tomorrow afternoon. There'll still be puddles around. So we get, below freezing, for example, on a Tuesday morning, you'll still have to deal with that probably in some areas. Let's see here. Let's go to this one. If you do have to walk on ice, walk like a penguin. If you can envision how a penguin walks, that's how you're supposed to walk. And what that means is, instead of walking straight up, like you have perfect posture, and your mom and your grandma is always like, keep your shoulders up, don't slouch. Well, this is where you tell them slouching is for the win. And that's what this guy's doing. He's slouching. Why? He's going to put his center of gravity forward over his front leg, one at a time, which happens when a penguin walks. And that will keep you more upright and less likely to fall. Otherwise, you end up like this dude. Now, you also notice here, see what his hand is doing? See where his hip is? You want to break your wrist, sprain your wrist, break your arm, break your hip. That's how you fall. So you don't want to fall that way. And I know it's going to be hard. So this is what you need you to do. I need you to get into your head. I want to picture yourself falling on the ice. All right? And what the first reaction you're going to do, tell your brain to shut up. We're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. Like this. All right? And what you're going to do is you're going to try to fall flat with your whole body. As soon as you feel that movement, just do this as a knee-jerk reaction and try to lay flat as you fall. That will distribute your force equally all across your body, F equals ma, so you have equal force applied throughout every square inch, which will lessen the amount of force in one particular area, therefore lessen the fractures, lessen the bone breaks, lessen the damage, injury, that kind of deal. I know it's going to be hard to do, but if you can visualize doing that, you'll be better off. Of course, you're better off not walking on the ice, but if you have to, take that to the bank with you. All right, so those are some helpful tips I wanted to pass along. So you've got that. You've got the forecast. Now, I always get asks, I always get asks to do the vertical cross-section of the atmosphere. Let's get down to the weeds. Let's have some fun with this. All right, so anybody who's new here and this is like, what in the world is this? Well, this is real meteorology. This is how we really do forecasts. Well, some of us, me anyway. It can tell you so many things in the atmosphere over a cross-section. Just one point, though. It's not a big picture. It's just like, so for example, I can show you this data here over Oklahoma City. I can move it 30 miles to the east, click another point, it may look completely different than this. So that's the only limitation on something like this. But what I get to see in the atmosphere is what's actually happening. All right. So we talked about this before. This level of the atmosphere is between 15, 20,000 feet. This is what we call the snow growth layer, kind of like the cloud layer where all the snow starts to fall, the ice crystals, the supercooled water droplets, all that stuff. And this red contours you see here is what we call omega. Omega is lift. And the more contours you have, the more lift you have. And, of course, the green, as you can imagine, is moisture. So if you get moisture, you're in the growth layer, you've got omega, you've got yourself some precipitation. So now we got to worry about is temperatures. Where are temperatures going to be when all this stuff falls and all this precipitation comes down and hits the ground? Well, as usual, time goes from the left to the right on this map, which is your brain's going to be like, well, that doesn't make sense. I know, it's different. They leave it up to meteorologists to be backwards on something. So we're going to tally things up with time. So this right here is at midnight. This right here is daybreak Monday. And I'm looking in Dallas-Fort Worth right now. Reasons for the NAM model, which is the model I'm picking here for this forecast. Okay, so what we see here, obviously, is plenty of lift, plenty of moisture, plenty of precipitation, and the model as a result, when you add these up, is around 1/4 of an inch of ice. Another way you can look at this is this little line right here that goes up. All right? This is where the line comes where it measures this icy period. And if you look over here to the right, on this scale, here's 0.3 and 0.2. That's between the two. So about 1/4 of an inch of ice is what the model is suggesting is going to happen in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. What's interesting to note is you can also plug in on this map, and this isn't a look at the vertical, it's just overriding for me what the surface temperatures in the dew point will be. So the red line up here, which I'll trace, is the actual temperature at ground level. Right here, this little last column, can you see it? Yeah, you can. 30, 20. It says 20 degrees, 25 degrees, 30 degrees. Okay. Now the dew point, and I'll trace this in yellow because I don't have a green on here. So here's the dew point. All right. Remember, this is the surface. This isn't really at 20,000 feet aloft. This is just an overlay on top of this to give me a visual. So what you'll notice here between these two is a huge discrepancy. So this is the dew point depression. I mean, there's a lot of dry air here between the two that can be overtaken with what we call wet bulbing and evaporative cooling. So this is why you can get precipitation in here, and you can have temperatures that were originally above freezing. And if I point this out right here, this little red line, it says 36, 37 degrees. 37 degrees here, but once it starts to rain in this column, it will try to bring this line all the way down, and it'll bring this dew point line, which is at 15 degrees, onto up. So it'll meet somewhere in the middle. That's what we call the wet bulb. All right, so the point being is, while our dew point value is way down here at 15 degrees, comes up to 16, and then 17, 18, 19, 20 right here. Here's 25 degrees, and then here is 30 degrees. By the time we get to around 30 degrees for the dew point, we also cool down to 30 degrees for the temperature. So they meet right here in the middle at about 3 o'clock in the morning in Dallas-Fort Worth, and they kind of hold together, and then they gradually both climb little by little as warm air advection continues by the time you hit to daybreak on Monday. And that is where we can use kind of this point right here, follow it all the way down to about 6 a.m. on Monday on this time scale. So what that means is, because of the way this is structured, we have this window of any precipitation that falls, and they're in Dallas, to be all ice. And that's why the model is going 1/4 of an inch of ice. So we'll do that, but we'll also now take a look at Oklahoma City, and then we'll do Tulsa. So here's Oklahoma City. Same idea. Now in this particular case, it never gets us above freezing. So the red line, okay, so here's your 30, let me plot 32 degrees. 32 degrees is right about here. All right, so there's 32 degrees. Look what that does. That comes in, if I point this all the way down, that correlates to noontime Monday. So we stay below freezing through noontime Monday, which means any precipitation we get in Oklahoma City, and I'll add it up down here at the bottom, all the way across, is 3/10 of an inch of ice. You can also follow the red line as the accumulating line right here, and that correlates over here to the right to 3/10 of an inch of ice. So the high resolution NAM model is going 3/10 of an inch of ice here in Oklahoma City, freezing rain. Now, can that cause some power outages? Sure can. 1/4 of an inch of ice, that's significant enough. And the other thing is, and this is interesting, I didn't think of this until just now, it's not overly heavy, meaning that the periods of the ice doesn't come down all at once. It comes down just little spurts at a time. And as you get those little spurts, that allows them to accumulate, aggregate better. on all surfaces, elevated. So in other words, trees, power lines, and stuff. Instead of just hitting it so hard it splashes off, it kind of just gradually hits it and then kind of coats it. Another ground gradually hits it, coats it, almost as you get toward the drizzle type deal. So that can actually make matters worse versus just so fast and furious that it just splatters around, that hits the ground and freezes there. So according to this output, it's pretty steady on the light side, but over a long period of time, spells trouble, obviously. So that's a 1/4 inch of ice or more here in this particular click point that I did for Oklahoma City. Now, can that mean less amounts in, say, Edmond and Piedmont and El Reno and Yukon? Sure can. You guys only get 1/10 of an inch. I mean, like I said, it's a point forecast, so it can vary from northwest side of town to the southeast side of town. All right, let's go to Tulsa, and we'll see what it's doing. By the way, I love when you guys ask me for this stuff. I was blown away the other day. I forgot who you were, but you said, "Can you show me the Tulsa or talk about Tulsa?" And I said, "I did talk about Tulsa." And you said, "No, on these maps." I said, "Oh, I like that." Okay, so here again, midnight, and it doesn't even have the light stuff prior to midnight for Tulsa. It doesn't measure anything here, which is actually an error, I think. But let's just take it for whatever it is. So we'll zoom on just to see what it does have, and it's got you up to lunchtime Monday of 2/10 of an inch of ice accumulation for this point forecast. Now, again, I think it's an error because I see that precipitation starting earlier for your late afternoon and evening, so we're going to have to add to this. That's why I'm thinking a 1/4 of an inch for Tulsa is not out of the question at all, even though this is a little cut off short on the data. So that can't happen. But same principle here. Let's look at these two numbers. Let's see, where are we? Monday. Let's go 32. So yeah, so about noontime, you're still below freezing, my little red line, and your dew point is well low. So it's 10 degrees, 15 degrees, 20 degrees, 25 degrees, and then up to around 30 degrees. Your dew point actually stays below freezing all the way up through noon, so any precipitation you get will have to be frozen. It can't be not frozen in that environment. So your dew point is everything when it comes to winter storms, especially for ice. So there you have it. Okay, so I basically have told you everything there is to know. Showed you some really cool data. That way you can understand what's happening, why it's happening. If you're late and you've missed everything, shame on you. I'm just kidding. What I'm going to do, though, is I'll post this link again in the broadcast comment section. Now, YouTube, I don't have to send you guys this, but I can. I mean, I'll do it. That way you guys have it, too. If it'll post. I don't know if YouTube will let you post the link. Sometimes YouTube is a dork, even for me. Let me see if I can do something. Hold up. And then I'm going to post it on Facebook as well. Come on. Stop it. Come on, mouse. You ever have a mouse scroller wheel that doesn't behave? All right, let's see if that works. Okay, that worked. I can do the one. So on YouTube, this is the weather broadcast channel. All I do is I send out a little notice to you, either that I've got a new blog out for you to read, or some big post that's important to you that you need to know, or that I'm going live. So that's what I use that channel for. So on Facebook, I'll post it again for you guys as well. Also, there's a link there if you'd like to donate. You can do that as well. And there's another third-party way you can get opt-in for weather updates. I'll probably be phasing that one out at some point, but right now it's still active, so you can join both. But definitely the Facebook broadcast weather channel is the new thing that has been created. That way I can reach you better, since the algorithms don't always do that anymore because. But anyway, so that's everything. Let me give you a quick recap for those who missed all of this and is wondering what's going on. You've heard some different things. You don't know what to believe. Blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, ice storm's coming. Widespread amounts across the state of 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. There will be some areas, a lot of areas, up to 1/4 to maybe even 1/2 an inch of ice, which will lead to power outages in those areas. Believe it or not, some of the model data, high-res data, does indicate that it could be 1/4 of an inch of ice both in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and even down into Dallas-Fort Worth. And Dallas-Fort Worth, their ice is overnight until you get to daybreak. So basically right around rush hour. That's when temperatures there should start to moderate. But boy, you want to talk about a close call. So it's going to go one way or the other in DFW come Monday morning commute. Right now I'm going on the icy side, so they better hope down there it melts before that happens. So that's how that's going to occur down in North Texas. Otherwise that ice continues up in Oklahoma, of course, and Arkansas and Missouri. Another hot spot for power outage and greater ice accumulations is around the Fort Smith area and just east of there, and also up in far northern Arkansas, crossing a border into southern south central Missouri. Another hot spot there, another 1/2 inch or more of ice, like around the Branson region. So again, power outages more likely in those areas. And then finally, a little hot spot for Oklahoma is kind of in the south central part of the state. Ardmore, Ada, Durant, kind of stretching up northeast from there. Another little quarter to half inch ice accumulations. So most likely air for power outages. Not to say you can't get them in other areas or even have them unrelated to the weather. But if you do, that is an issue. That's the one thing I didn't show you on my graphics. I knew there was something I was missing. So, for what it's worth, you do lose power. You don't have a generator. You don't have somewhere to go or, friends to go over to. This is a situation. Just close the blinds and curtains. Keep it in the heat. Close off the rooms to avoid wasting heat. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothing. Eat and drink. Food provides energy to warm the body, aka we call them calories. So this is the time where you can really chow down on all that bad food that you tell yourself don't eat. Now you can eat it. It does say avoid caffeine and alcohol, of course, because, now you're not going to do the caffeine because you're probably going to have, hot chocolate or hot coffee somehow if you can, have something to give you a little bit of power. Boil water and you can just, use a hand press. But anyway, stuffed towels or rags in the cracks under the doors just for any drafts. So that's one way you could kind of help keep your home warm a little bit more than it is while you wait for power to be restored in your area. And the good news is on this particular ice storm, it's in a window of about 12 hours to maybe 18. So I guess technically, let's do some math here. Let's just say, it's hitting most of us, across the state by 6 o'clock this evening. All right, very light stuff moving through. So let's just start the window there, even though it's going to start much earlier in southwest and western Oklahoma now. I'm just making this easy. So we'll go 6 p.m. for the heavier stuff through 6 a.m. tomorrow. It's a full 12 hours. And then you have, from that point forward, another 6 hours, depending on where you live, as to how much more ice you get on top of that each hour until it starts to also melt, starting from the southeast, and then working its way northward during the day. So that's why you kind of have that varied window of time, but it's 12 to really 18 hours in worst case. But the good news is it all melts after that. So by lunchtime, as temperatures get above freezing and the precipitation ends, it'll all drip off the trees and the power lines, etc. So it's time under tension, right? So good old physics. And the least amount of time you have over that tension, the better off you are. So that means that should also help to limit the amount of power outages. They'll have to happen during the height of the storm and the height of the precipitation accumulation period. So odds are that wouldn't occur until early Monday morning. That's where probably in most of these places you're going to start to get your highest accumulations of ice up to that point. But anyway, so that's kind of how things look in the big picture. Just play it safe. If you have to go out, I do expect school closures, other businesses either closed and or delayed. Maybe a lot of them won't go in until noon. So they might have signs up that says opening at noon or something. If you do have anything places to go, yes, you can go there. Just don't go in the morning. So just wait till lunchtime and then head on out. You should be fine after that. And then that's it. So that's our Oklahoma ice storm. And not all ice storms are the same, just like not all snowstorms are all the same. You can categorize anything however you want to, but you still have to call a spade a spade. Is it a rainstorm? No. Is it a snowstorm? No. Is it a hailstorm? No. Is it a windstorm? No, although it will be kind of windy. Is it an ice storm? Oh, yeah, it is, as a matter of fact. Okay, got that out of the way. Now, how do you classify it? Is it an ice storm where we're going to be trapped in ice for days on end? No. Is it going to be an ice storm where it's going to be catastrophic power outages over a widespread area because everybody's getting 3/4 or an inch of ice? No. Is it an ice storm to where it's going to completely wreck travel? Yes. Is it going to be an ice storm where many people aren't going to get without power? Yes. Is it an ice storm where certain areas are harder hit than others? Yes. Is it an ice storm with varying amounts from a tenth to a half inch? Yes. So there you go. So you put all those little categories in, but at the end of the day, it's still an ice storm. I'm not going to call it a rainstorm. That's just silly. So that's irritated the tar out of me because it confuses the message and it makes so many people not really understand what's happening. And you don't want to dismiss something like this, and you don't want to belittle it or pretend it's not a magnitude of importance. That's doing a disservice to the public. And if you have people that go out there on the ice and they get severely injured or die because they took your definition of a cold rain event and didn't anticipate all this ice around, and they lost a loved one, that's on you, man. I'm not going to put that message out there. So my message obviously is more serious. It's more scientific. So that's why I kind of got a little worked up over that when I saw a lot of posts this week. Not that, they were saying, oh, Aaron, he can't forecast nobody can forecast an ice storm 8 days out. I hear that stuff all the time. I do it all the time. So that wasn't it. It was just the downplaying and the significance of the event. That's what really bothered me, because ice storms are nothing to joke about, and they are not to be taken lightly. So that's why I got all worked up over it. Sometimes people have to stand up for what's right, and the ones that don't want to do that, not my problem. I'm me. I do me. So every now and then you got to speak up against nonsense, and then call a spade a spade. So that's why I kind of got a little heated there today's today's approach. And then there's so many of the weather people that call themselves meteorologists. Boy, that's irritating. And then I heard some people, I get messages. I don't know where this stuff comes from. You're saying if somebody has a certificate that they're not qualified to do this. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about meteorology. If you want to do apples to apples, and you go to a doctor who did probably 8 to maybe 12 years of medical school, and then you go to a guy that got a certificate through the mail online because he took 2 years of classes, and they both call themselves a doctor in the same field. Now, I want you to use your prefrontal cortex and your logic, and you tell me which one you're going to pick to be the expert. The guy that spent 12 years, calls himself a doctor, or the guy that spent 2 with a mail order, didn't take nearly half the number of classes and education level, doesn't know half the stuff he's talking about, and calls himself a doctor. Now, if you still pick that guy in the back alley, you're an idiot. I can't help you. So I can only spell it out there as simple as I can. So that's kind of what my point was. You guys got to filter in where you get your information. You got to vet who you're getting it from. Anybody can pretend they're anybody. This is 2024, baby. You can say whatever you want. Doesn't make it true, but so that was my whole point on that. Just because I get so tired, you compare forecasts and you bring up, and I'm just like, where are you guys getting this stuff from? I'm like, this is nonsense. Who's telling you this? And of course, you guys will all post where it's coming from, so I have to see it. So it's kind of like, once I see it over and over and over, I'm like, look, I got to say something. This is out of control. So that's why I got all into that on this topic. After this, I'm going to care again. I'm back to doing me, and like whatever happens. If you guys want to follow a bunch of losers, follow them. I don't care. It's your prerogative. So I'm not going to get into that mess. But I'm just letting you know it does matter. Education level does matter. And like I mentioned last night, even if you are educated on the science side for meteorology, doesn't mean every meteorologist is the same. Just like doctors, right? You can have one that specializes as a cardiologist, one that specializes in dermatology. Obviously, the two aren't going to know each other's specialties, but they're both, well-educated doctors. Same thing for meteorologists. You can have them really vast knowledge in chemistry, computer science. You can do it in modeling. You can do it in radar meteorology on the forecast side. So there's very areas of degree experience you can get as well. And some are really bad at the forecasting side. I mean, they're terrible. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I'm not them. But that can happen. Even though they are degree meteorologists. Again, not every human is created equal. They have to have a curiosity factor to learn like a sponge no matter where they go and what they come across. And then there's some that just squeak by and that's it. That's all they care about. So I'm just built different. I am very competitive. I am like a sponge. I deep dive into everything. I want to know everything. I'm like the Neuralink from Elon Musk before the Neuralink became an idea. So I'm the human version of the Neuralink. I want to know it all. My brain hurts. But so that's me. I just like to educate myself over a vast amount of topics. And it isn't just weather. I mean, when I do that, I go into everything hard. I go into bodybuilding hard. I go into real estate hard. I go into... what else? I can't even think right now. There's so many avenues that I go down, these rabbit holes of just information, and because I want to learn, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I think that's a good thing to do. So that's a little backstory and all that kind of stuff. Ellen says it's called hyperlearning. Awesome. Your kids do it too? That is excellent. I wish a lot of us could do hyperlearning. And I think the main problem is why we don't is time. And you really have to make time. And you have to find it interesting, right? If you don't have the time, you don't find the interest, you're not going to do it. For whatever, I'm built differently. And I go all in. Let's look at a couple of your comments, and then I'm going to get out of here. I did not look, Katie, for the long-term forecast for temperatures. I've been too focused on this. When I get like a big system like this, especially when we're talking about ice, I got to pay a lot of attention to it. There is... Lynn, certified versus licensed, bless their hearts. Yes, bless their hearts is a good term to use. And the other thing I noticed is when you do post truth, you know what the go-to is, the playbook that humans do? Rather than address the elephant in the room, the truth that was posted, the message, they will completely ignore all of it, not address a single point, and then go shoot the messenger, and then deflect, and then go start a fire over there that has nothing to do with what you said. That's the second thing. And when you see that, and then you see everybody else go, yeah, this person sucks because of this, that nobody even bothered reading what the post was about. That's how you know those people aren't worth saving. They're already lost. So, yeah, it's like the IQ and the EQ levels is so low sometimes it's not even worth getting into. So I just move on by and laugh. I like the hashtag, Jody. WDAS. I'm about to get that going. Kind of like LTTP. You guys did the LTTP, by the way. I didn't come up with that. You guys did, which was hilarious. It's just because I kept saying it because so many of you would be late to the party. But anyway, so I feel like Dr. Phil and Joe Rogan all at once. Oh, wait, Dr. Phil isn't technically a psychologist or anything. He's just a dude on TV. Can't say that. But anyway, so that's just some fun with that one. All right, let's see. You guys on YouTube, let me see if you guys have any questions real quick. My husband. Yeah, Lacey, that's true. If people are really good at their job, the people don't like that person. Man, humans are funny. The older I get, the more I shake my head. In his image. I look up, I go, in your image? Psh, dude, you know what that says about you? I have a few talks with the big man upstairs. I'm like, why? Please tell me there's a reason for all that. Why? What in the world did you do? What were you thinking? So, yeah, there's some heart-to-heart talks there with the big man upstairs over stuff I see that mankind does, and it's sad. Anyway. All right, so it looks like I answered all the weather questions. I didn't see any specific. I know, Barbara, you said about Shawnee. You're just like the rest of us. You're about a quarter of an inch of ice, it looks like, in your region. Same time frame, coming up later into this evening, late afternoon. So after 5 o'clock, I think is when that line started moving through the metro and then to the east a little bit. And then, of course, that moves up to Tulsa. So light stuff to Tulsa until that heavier line moves in for the evening. All right, Cindy, free will. That's another good one. All right, so this is funny too. So you said that down the head was free will, right? Which, this is one of those things, if you get into a religious discussion, you'll see a lot of people say God is in control. And I said, actually, no. God, unfortunately, gave us control through the free will process. So technically, we have control of our lives. We do the actions, and then we suffer the consequences. So of those actions, whether good or bad. So he doesn't stop you from doing something. Now, you can be led, you can have things put in front of you. Bottom line is, you still make the choice. You are in control. So it's funny, and then you'll have the flip side of that. Well, then I won't do anything, and I'll let God be in control by not thinking for myself or making any action until he tells me what to do. And you have that extreme. And I'm like, look, if that was the case, why did he give you a brain? You don't need it. So, when you get into these arguments, it's comical. And I'm just sit back and go, oh, whatever. I just focus on me to do the best I can do, be the best human I can be, learn the most I can do, and help the most people I can help. That's it. That's all I can. That's how I kind of dumb it all down and make it as simplified as I can, or I'll go crazy and I'll have to be on drugs 24/7 to cope with society. I don't want that. So we just got to shut it out. Just ignore it. Move on. Let's see. You need to go to the store. No, Kelly, you're good. I mean, you can go to the store. We need some milk. We'll probably go, but just for a gallon of milk. But it's only you're only gonna need it for 24 hours, and then you go back to the store again if you want. Yeah, Mary. Looks like school will probably be out. I don't make that call, but it looks that way. Yeah, there's a couple things, Karen. Accountability and ownership. Two things humans will fight to the death to not do. Why? Woo, because their identity is tied into their action. And if they admit they did wrong, that means they've tied their identity to that, and their brain won't allow them to do that. They got to self-protect at all costs. But yeah, if you can humble yourself and do accountability and ownership when that happens, you are so far ahead of the rest of everyone else. And you realize that's not a weak thing, that's a strong thing to do. And then you learn and grow from it. And then you're more respected because of it. So, man, I don't know. I could go deep on all these discussions. What's totally outside of weather. But, whatever. All right, so I get out of here. Matt, thank you for the love on that one. All right, I'm going to get out of here, though, but we will... I'll be watching things... You know what? Real quick before I go, here's a quick look at radar. That's interesting because I just saw it kind of expand in coverage and intensity out here. So I was just watching the trend here. Ice pellets and rain is what this little guy says. It looks like. What does it say? Let me turn... Oh, I was going to show you earlier. I meant to turn this off. That's what I was going to do. So if we turn off the rain, you can see the green area, which is a winter weather advisory, and you can see the little winter storm watch area. And this out here is supposed to be ice storm warning over this whole area. There's like a little county missing for some reason, but all of this is an ice storm warning. Now, will this expand and kind of work its way maybe over in this area? Sure could. Will it expand and work its way over this area? Yep, I would expect so too, but we'll see. Weather Service will make that decision. But let me turn this thing off. That way I can go see what these little dots say. Because I couldn't read them earlier because of the deal. So mixed rain and ice pellets. Ice pellets and sleet. And that one says, get off of there, would you? Come on. Let me see if I can zoom in and get that. There it is. Drizzle. You're getting everything. It's a winter mix. Drizzle, rain, ice pellets, sleet. So bottom line, a little wintry mix, some precipitation coming to the ground from that deal. Let me turn on the NextRad system. So this will show you the heavier bouts of precipitation that actually makes it to the ground. The blue stuff likely isn't, or if it is barely noticeable. Then the green stuff definitely is, and that's where you just got those reports from Medicine Park to Lawton, Geronimo, out here toward Duncan, Comanche, up toward Carnegie, the Colony. Then we've got west of Weatherford, Clinton, Thomas, Oakwood, Sealing, some more heavier echoes there. And then you can see some very light echoes starting to move into central Oklahoma. Again, this is not making its way to the ground yet, but it is 1:30, 2:33. It's an hour and a half. I think it'll be here about 3 o'clock. So if you have anything to do, you got an hour and a half to get there and back before you have to even worry about anything at all. After that, I got no promises for you. Whatever hits the ground, and whatever gets on the roads, gets on the roads. And then we'll go from there. All right, anyway, so I just want to look at that just to kind of see how things looked out in that part of the state. You guys be careful. Have a great rest of your afternoon. I'll probably do the live at some point today. We'll see when. Maybe when the heavy precip comes in, or maybe this evening. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But you guys be safe regardless. And thanks again for your support. Liking the video, sharing it. Tell your friends and family about AT's weather. If you want to join the Facebook fan subscriptions or the YouTube subscriptions, or send me some love in any other fashion, the link is in the chat. I'll post it again one more time, where you can join the new broadcast channel. But under that is also where you can support me in other ways if you would like. Alrighty, I'm out. You guys have a great rest of your day. Talk soon. Take care.